once did a stand-up comedy gig in Glasgow in about 1992 where I had to follow Robbie Coltrane in Glasgow. And I thought that was a tough gig. But following Chris Faulkner, who was a brilliant speaker and an extraordinary man, the best deadpan comic I think I've ever seen in my life, is not going to be easy. But I mean, the reason I'm here, I mean, I'm sure I don't need to explain to you, I'm not a scientist, I'm not an engineer, I'm just some old bloke who's driven about 65,000 miles in electric cars in the last few years. And the experience of doing that has sort of changed my attitude to the way we do things in the world. It's actually really annoying driving electric cars. They're really bloody annoying, because the first time you drive one, you drive along in this little thing and it goes whizzes and it goes along the road like a car. And then you go, well, hang on a minute, all these bloody greenies going on about this. Where does the electricity come from? Where does the electricity come from? It's all well and good getting all posy and tofu-ridden and wearing your bloody sandals and holding your anti-fracking posters. Where does the electricity come from? It comes from burning coal. I know it's true because Clarkson told me. And then you get out of the electric car and you give it back to the people who lent it to you and you get back into your petrol car, which in my case was a Volkswagen Golf R32, the most inefficient Volkswagen Golf ever created. And I turned it on, and I heard that deep, throbbing, masculine V6 Euro engine throbbing away in front of me. And I went, hang on a minute, where does the petrol come from? Where does the petrol come from? I'd never asked that question in my life. All I ever did was go to the petrol station, fill it up, need a wee, got to have a wee, fill it up. Fucking hell, look how much it fucking costs. Shit! Put the thing back in, go in, complain about the cost, moan about the cost, buy a bottle of water that cost way more than the fucking petrol. And then I did a program. I did a series. A lot of you will have seen Scrap Heap Challenge, where I met a lot of engineers, many of whom were working on the early versions of electric vehicles, particularly in the United States, particularly in California. And then I did another series called How Do They Do It? And in that series, during that series, I spent 2 days at a big oil refinery in Pembrokeshire, and I spent another 2 days at Draxby Power Station in Yorkshire, filming how do they make electricity. They bring in coal from Poland, because we closed all our mines, and they bring it in on ships. And there's a big crane, the biggest crane in England, and I had a drive of it, and it's brilliant. This big digger that digs up coal 24 hours a day and puts it on the big things, and it goes in, it gets ground up with the big balls. There's massive balls. Yorkshire has some of the biggest balls in the world, grinding coal into dust, and it's blasted into furnace, and then the big, and you know, the turbine hall at Draxby is just fantastic. And that makes electricity. And that electricity then goes down and into the national grid, and we use it to power our electric cars. And we think we're being tofu-eating and green in our electric cars. Then you go to the oil refinery, and you see the oil refinery. I got out at the oil refinery when we were filming there. I got out in the car park, and I looked up, and there was a massive substation right next to the car park. And I went, oh, God, I never knew they generated electricity when they refined petrol and oil and diesel. I didn't know that happened until I met the chief engineer, who said very proudly to me, we use more electricity here than Coventry and Leicester combined. And I went, oh, do you? That's fascinating. Now, the hardest figure I've ever discovered, and it took me months, and I asked hundreds of people, and I tweeted about it, and I wrote emails to companies, and it's a very hard figure to find, is how much electricity we use to refine petrol and diesel. How much electricity is used by the 3 big oil refineries in this country. Eventually I found it, and it was recorded by the United Nations. The last year they recorded it was 2005, because for very obvious PR reasons, the oil companies don't want that sort of information getting out. So in 2005, in the UK, we used 5,642 gigawatt hours of electricity to refine petrol and diesel, and all the other stuff, very important stuff we get out of oil. So when Mr. Clarkson, who's obviously always right, and it's very important to underline that, when he says that, and when someone reads out the CO2 emissions from an exhaust pipe, 157 grams per kilometre, that's 1/3 of the CO2 that is produced to drive that kilometre. It's a complete misnomer. So when you find these things out, they're not fun. They're really annoying facts. So I drive an electric car. I drive a thing called a Nissan Leaf. I drove in it here today. I live 100 miles outside London. I stop at a rapid charger on the M40 to top it up when I'm on my way here. I make a point of overtaking SUVs when I go up the cutting near Stokenchurch, just because I can and I have to. And there's a 3.5-ton vehicle with a massive engine going with massive clouds of smoke coming out the back, and I overtake them, and then I slow right down again and pull in the slow lane. I just have to do it. I've done 35,000 miles in the Nissan Leaf, and it's cost around £600 in electricity. £600 that I've paid for myself with my own money that I rake in from being on the telly, because, God, we're well paid. It just chunders in. It's like having a massive fracking rig in your fucking kitchen. It's brilliant. Every day I open another, not the BBC again. What, that much? I just don't fucking need it. That's what it's like. Move over that way, sorry. Oh, I see. God, you'd think a fucking actor could find a light. Tragic. So, yeah, so those are the sort of simple facts. I also have solar panels on my roof. What a tosser! Should have a fracking rig. Solar panels on my roof that in the last 2 years have produced 6,000 kilowatt hours. Nothing, pathetic, tiny, won't make any difference to the big picture. It's a tosser's response to everything. If every fucking house in this country produced 6,000 kilowatt hours in 2 years, the whole energy picture would change. And when you go to countries like Germany and you can drive down the Autobahn in a hybrid, obviously, as I was doing, not quite as fast as the other car. When you get overtaken on the Autobahn and you're doing 90 miles an hour, I don't know how many kilometers an hour, and you can't see what make the black car is that overtakes you. You can't, it's black. It's, fuck, what was that? I don't even know, I can't even see. Anyway, we used to play I Spy to find the houses that don't have solar panels on. It's quite a boring game. It's very, very rare. And what has that done to the German economy? What has that done to the way Germany produces electricity? What has that done? Because Germany and France are the two countries in Europe that have banned fracking completely. Why have they done it? They just are stupid. They are stupid and they haven't got a clue, and they just don't want to make loads and loads of money by drilling and burning shit like we've been doing for the last 100 years. Maybe we should move on. Yes, there's loads of shit in the ground. Yes, we can drill it and get it up and make fucking tons of money. And piss all over our grandchildren. Shit on them. Brilliant. What a brilliant solution. Let's do it. Let's drill the shit out of the world, fuck it up for good, and then move on. It doesn't matter. We'll all be fucking dead when the shit happens. 25-meter rise in sea levels in the next 100 years. What will this place be like then? I'll tell you, there'll be fucking fish swimming around it. That'll be happy as Larry. Thank fuck they fracked it. Brilliant. Way. I'm going over the top. I just want to give a bit of balance to the last speaker. Here's an important thing. Fracking as a technology, brilliant. I love it. I only just discovered this recently. Thankfully, proper engineers and scientists get in touch with me. When you drill to use geothermal energy, you frack. You frack the shit out of the rocks, and you get more heat up, and then you can run it. Oh, here's a weird thing. You can run it for hundreds of years, and it won't run out. It'll just keep going. What a stupid, fucked up, short-sighted technology that is. I can't remember anything else. I tell you what I totally agreed with Chris, 100%, about our energy security. There's two ways of dealing with it, because I don't want to buy gas from Russia, not because I hate Russians. I've been to Russia, they're lovely. I've been to the United Arab Emirates, they're all really lovely. And guess what they're doing? They're converting their entire energy system to renewables, because they want to sell us the oil. That's a quote. That's a quote from a man who works in Abu Dhabi. He was lovely, he was called Nasser. And he smelt gorgeous. Actually, when I was interviewing, I stood downwind of him, so he smelt so lovely. Because I didn't. I stank like a Brit in Saudi Arabia, as you can imagine. I'll tell you what's embarrassing. You wear a dark shirt because you think it'll hide the sweat, but then you get the salt stains around your man boobs. The camera picks that up. It's not good. And also, Nasser came to this country when he was 19 to study marine engineering in Newcastle. So I was standing in the desert with a man, with what, as he described, this is a quote, as he described, with a tea towel and a rope on his head. That's what he said, not me. But he said it in a Geordie accent. And let me tell you, that is very confusing. And we did get him on camera. You can see it's on YouTube. You can see him standing next to one of his autonomous cars, and he just says, "Oh, we're the lads." It was a magic moment. But yeah, they don't put in 1 or 2 solar panels on the roof like we do in suburbia. I think they have something like 160,000 in one section. I think they have something like 100 acres in one section of the desert. And what it's done is displace some goats, and it's really upsetting. There's a lot of demonstrations from the goats. So it's a very different attitude, and they know that they can do that. They've got the money to do it. Why have they got the money to do it? Because we gave it to them, which is fine. We don't want to burn the oil here. We want to sell it to you. That was one of the quotes. I've got nothing else to say. I've shot my wad, ladies and gentlemen.